Facebook, and ready to start Venture Camp week 2. So we have all of our finalists here with us. For those of you watching live on Facebook, we have closed the Zoom for this week, so we will have time for Q&A and we will be monitoring that Facebook chat. So for any of you who still want to ask questions and engage with the founders, make sure that you're staying active in that chat and we'll make sure that the founders get asked those questions. All right, so this week is gonna work a lot like last week. We have 6 of our finalists who will be presenting this week. They were working on their business and revenue models. So last week they worked on their customer validation, and they're taking what they learned last week and applying it and starting to really make those final decisions of what this business is gonna look like as they prepare for launch. So some things that they haven't done yet, they haven't done their pricing structure, they haven't done their go-to-market plan, so there's no marketing information or anything yet. We are taking this step by step as they prepare for their business plan to be a real thing. They are learning for real along the way and working each and every week on different aspects of their business. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started with our first presentation. So first up, we have Haley Ajamian with Tailend.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So this week we were trying to define our ideal customers, and I was taking my feedback from last week. All my feedback had a similar theme in common, talking about trying to really stay focused on high end. Sometimes I want to do like affordability and high end and kind of try to bring them together. And I kind of need to maybe put one foot in front of the other and then go backwards if I can. So let me share my screen with you guys. I went and checked out Etsy. Cool. And oh, can I go back? Here we go. So I went and checked out Etsy and some other like high-end sites, and we had some similar values. Like people really liked beautiful things. They really liked the function of having furniture that they could also use with their pets. And so my values were durability, beautiful, safe, and multifunctional, so that we all kind of stay right in line. I made up this value proposition statement, handmade high-end furniture company for dog lovers. And as far as my business model, let's go to the next little slide here. I started putting together just a simple little business outline. I really liked Megan's example in one of the videos that she made this week. Oh, sorry, my neighbor's car just dropped something. There's a bunch of noise outside. She was talking about Zappos and Airbnb and how they started really tiny, and they just maybe like Airbnb was renting out bedrooms in their own apartments at first. And I liked that idea because essentially that's kind of how I want to go about this. I want to start very small from my house, and my marketing would essentially be word of mouth or social media. There's so many free things out there that I wouldn't initially start with a ton of money into marketing. My competition would be the Etsy, or there's a company called Rockstar Puppy Boutique, and that is some pretty adorable stuff, pretty high end as well. As far as operations, it would be me. It would all be pretty simple. I would be a sole proprietor. I would either someone would ask me word of mouth, our referrals, or maybe do like an online store. I think my revenue model would probably be pretty traditional in that way, where I have a something, you want it, we exchange something for money, or people would do more like online commissions. And then eventually I would branch out, and I like the idea of affiliate marketing. I like the idea of having other local makers maybe have stuff once I have a shop, and then we all can kind of share each other's pie a little bit. But it would all start pretty simple. And then I put a little other on there, my startup costs would be fairly low liability. And then pricing is going to be a fun week to work out because when you start talking about really quality solid stuff and doing it in small batches, it gets expensive. It's actually much easier to buy nails and lumber in a larger quantity. So I'm still kind of figuring all that out. But yeah, that's what I've got for this week. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Haley. So now we're going to open up the floor for questions. So if anyone has questions for Haley, if you remember from last time, you can click on your participants button, and there's a little button within there that should allow you to raise your hand. So you can raise your hand. We'll be monitoring that for questions. For those of you on Facebook Live, again, we are monitoring the chat on the Startup Reading Facebook page. So if you have any questions on there, we will be watching for those. And it looks like we have a question from Brian.
Hi, yeah, I was wondering, like, for your initial products, are you going to kind of build them in-house in your garage? Are you going to try to source them somewhere? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I want to start with probably, one product and eventually, branch out from there. But it would be my garage with the tools and, stuff that I have. I'd be building everything. And then as the idea sort of expands, I would be reaching out to local makers for other products. So it would all be staying within our county. But most of the products in the beginning would be made by me until made by friends.
Sorry, I am muted, guys. I'm sitting here muted talking to you guys. Lonnie, I see that your hand's raised. Could you go ahead?
Nice presentation, Haley. Simple to the point. My question is, do you have experience in woodworking? Is that one of your passions and skill sets, or are you going to be learning as you create?
So a little bit of both. I am kind of a crafter. I like to get into stuff and make stuff. I consider myself like a little bit of a jack of all trades, kind of not a master of any. My husband is a master carpenter and has done it for about 17 years. And so he has taught me a lot of things. And he has told me a million times, when it comes time to getting into really tricky, like router work, if you need some tips or pointers or whatever. So I do have several people to kind of help teach me, but yes, that's part of it. I need to start small and slow because some of the ideas I have are going to take a really long time to execute well until I get my 10,000 hours in. Does that answer your question? So yeah, we do like mixed medium art. Like we do a lot of different stuff. We work with a lot of different materials and products. And so I'm not a master doghouse builder, no, but that doesn't like deter me in any way.
And you're still thinking of doing the crate table?
Yes.
That's still your one simple product.
That's still my original product idea.
Great.
I know I keep saying doghouse because it's a lot of different things, but.
Sure. Thanks.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Lonnie, for that question. I don't see any Facebook questions in the Facebook. If anyone else has a question, we have time for one more question before we move on. All right, if there is no one else, we will move on to our next participant. Now, just a heads up, guys, for our finalists, if you have any friends and family that you sent the link to, we are not letting anyone into the Zoom link that we do not know. And so we have quite a few people in the weight room that either don't have real names on there or are names that we don't recognize and are not Venture Camp participants or finalists or any of our community members. And so if you have friends and family that are waiting, we just ask that you ask them to go to the Startup Reading Facebook page to watch your pitch today. Unfortunately, due to our issues last week, we cannot risk letting unknown people into our Zooms. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and move on. And up next, we have Robert Francis with Drew's Place.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. Oh, don't do that. Okay. Well, good afternoon and welcome back to Drew's Place. I want to introduce you to Nate. Nate's been discharged from the military for about 6 months and he hasn't made any connections. Struggling with being employed, feels alone, always has to be on alert. Frequent anger outbursts, and he's not adjusting to civilian life. The customer validation shows that Nate is not alone, and in fact, he represents the veteran population. See, the VA placed Nate in a group where vets often tell old war stories, and this is traumatizing for Nate and leaves him frustrated. And since dropping out, has been placed on multiple wait lists. Drew's Place understands that vets like Nate are falling through the cracks, feel like nobody cares, they're on an island, and they're quickly losing hope. So the unique value proposition for Drew's Place is meeting our vets like Nate where they are at emotionally, surrounding them with others they relate to, and making sure they get the individual attention they need. Vets like Nate will be treated by professionals who not only want to help them, but have also been trained extensively in working in trauma. Based on the feedback from our surveys and interviews, we will offer Nate individual and group therapy, include him in his overall treatment process using the session rating scale in order to adjust to what Nate needs and let Nate know he can have hope that he can heal. So what's the real MVP? When Nate walks into our office, he'll see a small, quaint office. He'll be greeted by a front desk staff with a smile. Notice warm colors, soft lighting, relaxing scents, comfortable seating, and peaceful pictures. I will greet Nate and take him back and give him a tour of the office. He'll notice a small group room, a restroom, and then I'll show him to where we're going to be working together. See, each session, Nate will be able to tell me if he felt heard, was able to talk about what he wanted to work on, and share if he feels the treatment approach was a good fit. And depending on the severity of Nate's trauma, he could be seen 2 to 3 times a week, once for individual therapy and twice for group. This is compared to only 1 time every couple of months for individual therapy through the VA, or not at all if he's on a wait list. So let's talk money. TRICARE is the insurance company for the Veteran Affairs Department. It used to be known as Military Medical Care, but in 1988, the Department of Defense created TRICARE, and it's offered mental health services since then. However, in recent years, in the last 5 years, TRICARE has expanded its mental health coverage in many different areas, including substance abuse and all kinds of things. But what it did really is it includes more in-network providers. So individuals like myself or private practitioners are able to see veterans. And they're no longer limiting how many sessions a veteran can come and see us for. So this indicates a strong revenue stream. So when they come to us for their PTSD, it's covered, no charge. They need a psych assessment costing up to $2,500, no charge. And we still haven't even touched on our children or our non-military adults. So standing the test of time, is Drew's Place sustainable? What I don't know is when this war will end and when the next will begin. But what I do know is that based on research, veterans who aren't even being deployed to combat zones are experiencing PTSD. Over 60,000 vets were surveyed and 13.5% screened positive for PTSD, both deployed and non-deployed. So it's really important to say that veterans who aren't even leaving the base are experiencing PTSD. So is Drew's Place sustainable? The research says absolutely. So what's the future look like for Drew's Place? We'll be offering individual and group therapy to our veterans. We'll expand to children and adolescents for individual and group therapy. And as we hire qualified clinicians and ensure they have sufficient training, we will open our doors to non-military adults experiencing PTSD. And then lastly, the icing on the cake, getting into the school system to train staff and teachers to recognize symptoms of trauma and make appropriate referrals. And this will be funded by Victims of Crime Fund, private insurance, and grant funding. So what are some bumps in the road? Well, building trust in the veteran community. We know vets have a difficult time trusting others with their trauma. And grant funding. Who knows what funding will be available, and the lack of knowledge and experience in the area of grant writing. I have none. But however, customer validation shows that veterans are not getting the services they need and are willing to seek therapy to treat their trauma. And lastly, due to this program, Venture Camp,
That is
already been
time. Almost there. Thank you so much, Robert. All right, so we will open up the floor for questions. Again, we've had a few people log on that were not here the first time. So if you click your participants panel, there should be an option for you to raise your hand. And if we can get some hands raised, we will call on you. And again, on the Facebook chat, we are monitoring that chat, the comments on the live Facebook feed. So feel free to ask your questions there as well. All right, it looks like we have a question from Haley.
All right, so I apologize because I just don't know much about this. When you get out of the military and you're a veteran, do you automatically get some kind of veterans insurance? Is that what the TRICARE is?
So you don't automatically get it. You have to be, there's like 3 criteria. You have to be honorably discharged. I'm not going to remember all 3 of them. One of them's what would be considered a normal discharge. And then there's one other category. So basically, if you're dishonorably discharged, you're not eligible for the benefits. But upon discharge, the military walks you through the process of how to sign up for your benefits and things like that, as long as you qualify for it.
And then just a follow-up question. I have noticed more and more, whether it's chiropractors or even some like doctors, that lots of different fields, whether it's mental health, a lot of people are doing like bypassing the insurance altogether because people have such a problem with insurance. And then you mentioned being able or eventually going out to people who are not veterans. Would you consider doing something like that where it was a flat price? And just
like a cash rate or something along those lines.
What would you say?
Like a cash rate, something that they could just pay. Absolutely. That will always be an option for individuals that don't have insurance or aren't eligible through the VA. And I've already thought of scholarship programs that offer therapy services to people who don't have the money to pay for it. So just thinking of all kinds of ways to treat as many people as possible.
Cool, because my first thing I think is just, especially when you start talking about mental health issues, a lot of these people have this "I can't" kind of just going around in their head, or there's obstacles, I don't know how to get over them. And
absolutely,
that's really cool. You've thought of all that stuff. Okay, I'm going to be quiet.
Hey, Robert, this is Todd. I put my question in the chat because I didn't want to have feedback with Megan here, but I'll just ask it since we figured out how to not have feedback. So mine is just anyway. For combat vets, I was in the Marine Corps. I'm not a combat veteran, but I have a lot of buddies that are. Mm-hmm. And I know sometimes they can feel uncomfortable talking to non-veterans about their trauma. And so have you kind of walked through that and validated that with any, and actually, I don't really know your personal background, so I could be mistaken if you are a veteran yourself, but just how you validated that with non-veteran counselors to treat veterans with PTSD.
It's a great question, Todd. Thank you. I'm not a veteran, so I would encounter that sticking point, which I didn't include in the slide there, and I ran out of time. But our customer validation did show that vets want to be not necessarily treated by someone who is a veteran, but at least be surrounded by people who understand them. And that's, I think, the benefit of the group therapy process that we'll offer multiple days a week, is that they may not be being treated by a therapist who was a veteran, at least if it's me, but they'll at least be around similar individuals like themselves. And I think time will eventually, as the reputation of Drew's Place grows, the reputation will speak for itself that we're doing really good work.
All right, so it looks like we have a quick question in the Facebook feed. What is the cash cycle for Drew's Place? i.e., if Nate comes to see you today for his 2,500 eval, when would you receive payment?
That's a great question. So typically it's about a 3-month turnaround to be reimbursed through insurance companies. So starting Drew's Place will be, in terms of the first few months, probably be a little difficult on the revenue stream, but it's very consistent as long as billing is being submitted on a timely manner. It's always basically playing catch up. So once we start getting the funding in, we will continually be getting payments coming in consistently every 3 months, or all the time, 3 months from when the original service took place.
Awesome, thank
Great
you.
question.
All right, so we have time for one more question, and it looks like Heather Stearns has her hand raised. So Heather, if you can unmute yourself.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think it's unmuted.
Yeah, we can hear you, Heather.
Okay, Robert.
Hi.
I just wanted to actually say for Drew's Place, I've known Robert since probably junior high. And I think that what he's doing is absolutely amazing. And I feel with the questions that about him not being a vet, I feel it's more about the compassion that someone has for what they're doing. And I feel that with his background and everything that he's gone through, and with his friend and his friend's family that he's helping like get through emotionally with their trauma that they're dealing with, I feel that even though he's not a vet, he has that compassion for a person like that. And I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
All right, awesome. So we are going to go ahead and move on. There was a question that came through the chat. Robert, I will send that to you afterwards.
Yeah, I can do those.
So sorry, I'm doing 500 things at once. Next up, we have Zach Shea with Boxcar Fermentation Project.
Hello. Okay, here we go. Boxcar Fermentation Project. Oops. So our brewery and restaurant incubator helps consumers who want both variety and quality by providing the customers with a rotating selection of restaurants, menus, and limited release beers, while providing startup brewers and food entrepreneurs space and mentoring to grow their businesses. Sorry, my computer is not, there we go. So our most viable product, ultimately it's beer. And since there isn't a way to go to market without a brewery, this is typically done by simply sharing home brew to see if others like it. And if they come back, then you want that. There's a market for it. And we've done that. So a partner, our director of fermentation, Nick Reiser, is one of Northern California's most respected home brewers and Shasta County's only certified Cicerone. That's a sommelier for beer. Nick is also respected among his peers internationally and was chosen as one of only 15 home brewers to pour at Festival Brettanomys in the Netherlands, alongside some of the most respected uncommon beer brewers in the world. And our revenue model. So I intentionally did not leave percentages off of this because it's rotating, it's evolving, it's changing. As we grow, as we see more contract brewing coming in, we're going to do less event space rentals. So first is selling beer. That's going to be through our tap room from our physical location. It's distribution to other bars, restaurants, and retail locations. And it's direct to consumer. So utilizing changes to beer laws to ship out into 25 states. Sorry. Okay, so it's contract brewing and the brewery incubator. So it's full service, in-house. We can handle everything from label designs, recipes, consulting, brand development. It's a one-stop shop for breweries of any size, whether they want a single batch canned, ready to distribute, or if they want to build multiple beers for a full lineup. And the incubator, it's a variety of mentorship opportunities to help guide breweries with any part of the process. And the kitchen incubator, it's fully furnished commercial kitchen pods with a variety of rental options from pop-up, short-term, long-term, and even profit sharing. And that's where the incubator program comes in. It's a structured model to help startups. Then event and space rental. So this is where we saw a lot of interest in our surveys. There was a lot of interest in community events where other people can come in and do something. Let's say it's a plant store and they want to do beers and bouquets for Valentine's Day. We can do that. It's also our own events, beer festivals, pairing dinners, community brew days, live music. Those were all very well received in our survey. And then there's space rental, from birthday parties, corporate events, because everybody wants to throw a party. So more details on kind of the sustainability of long-term. We're going to be very selective at who we contract and incubator brew for. Volume requirements, beer quality, their base recipe need to be high quality enough. There needs to be a brand and sales infrastructure in place to support the growth that they need to. A trajectory for, sustainable long-term partnership. And with contract brewing, there's two. The first one is in Florida. They've met with over 300 breweries to really settle on the 17 that met the criteria. And there's Octopi Brewing in Wisconsin, which has expanded multiple times. And most recently, it was an $11 million expansion. So there's a need for this. This isn't like one or two breweries that need this. This is a continually thing. And then the ultimate cost for contract brewing customers is about $180 to $250 a barrel, and cost for brewing it is about $85. And then once you go through label design, you can kind of get there, but the goal is to end up with a 30% profit.
All right, that is time. All right, we will open up the floor for questions. Into our Facebook Livers, we are monitoring the Facebook Live chat, so feel free to ask questions there. To those on Zoom, you can raise your hand and we will call on you. All right, looks like we have a question from Brian.
Hey, Zach, great job. So tell me what that looks like day one. What is actually offered? What does that look like?
It's a brewing location with a tap room that'll sell beer brewed there from our on-site staff. And then we'll have at least one rentable kitchen to get a food entrepreneur in there to start going. And then it's fully expandable. We can bring in additional kitchen pods. We can expand the brew house to really grow and develop as we see the need.
All right, thank you for your question, Brian. Do we have any more questions in the Zoom meeting or in the Facebook chat? Oh, we got one in the Facebook chat. Amos is asking, what is the capacity in barrels per month?
It really depends on the brew house that we build. There's a lot of options, We would probably start at a minimum of a 10, 15 barrel system and go from there. We can add extra fermenters. So, yeah.
All right, thank you, Amos, for that question. We'll leave it open a little bit longer. If anyone else has a question, we have a couple minutes left.
Hey, Zach, Ryan Yamani here. Can you hear me, Megan?
Yes.
Okay. Love the idea. Any idea how much capital it will require for you to get to day one? It sounds fairly capital intensive.
It kind of depends on the location. From the commercial pods, you're looking at $50,000 for a fully furnished 20-foot pod that'll serve 250 people a day without issue. The brew system, you could probably start off at 150,000. Of course, the more specific and the better the brew system you start with, just the more profit there is. Starting a little bit bigger is just, you have better margins. So, I mean, there's a good amount, but it's not, you don't need to start at 11 million. You can grow into that.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Torben messaged in the chat asking if he's allowed to ask questions. And yes, Torben, you are. So you can unmute yourself.
Hey, Zach. I love the idea, in particular, assuming this is for Reading with the development of the inner city. These are the kind of things that are going to be super cool as Reading grows. I'm just wondering, like, from a scalability perspective, if you've considered like franchising and going national, what that would look like, and also what would really be unique about what you're doing if for future growth.
So the use of mentors in contract brewing, typically they don't use that. You get the local brew house to help with recipes. I've talked to a few well-named brewers. There's the Alex Tweet, who started Fieldwork. There's Kyle Letty, who is New Glory's head brewer, whereas they both have looked into expanding and taking on other breweries. So there's really, if you're going to create an IPA recipe, there's nobody better than the creator of the Grapefruit Sculpin to really help you work on IPA recipes. And with how breweries are licensed, they can have a minimum of 6 additional locations. It might be 8, but 6 at least. So you can have a brew house location, whether that's a little bit outside of town where you really work on your contract brewing, and then you can set up satellite locations. So you can have many, many of these spread out, at least through California. And once you figure out the size, the scale, you can take it anywhere. Maybe we could start with the main location here, and we can go to San Diego because all of the same licenses work because it's the same state. So you could set up a satellite tap room, brew here, transfer all of that beer to a satellite tasting room, get the kitchen pods in there. Just all you need is a chunk of land at that point, and you can repeat it many times.
Cool, I love that. And also secondary market for kombucha. I'm just going to throw that in.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can do all kinds of beverages there through the canning system, through all of that. I mean, it'd be mostly fermented beverages, but there's hard kombucha, all of that. It all uses the same equipment.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. That is all we have for time for questions. So we are going to move on to our next presenter. So next up, we have John Paul with Collab Edge.
All right. Hey guys, this is John Paul with Collab Edge. Who are we? We are a platform that gives people the accountability, community, and mentorship they need to complete their IT certification goals. This was a evolution from the information we discovered last week when I sought out to perform or create specific technology training courses we learned that actually a lot of the people in this field are interested in a community. This is a very unique offering in the IT space. I have not been able to find anything like it. So our target is IT professionals in general, down the line. Immediately, we're going to have to look more closely at a niche within a niche. So within the IT landscape, we have information technology professionals. Within that, there are the entry-level people. And within that, we're going to focus on people who are pursuing Cisco certifications. What value are we adding or giving to these customers? We're going to give these customers a place to find community. Through our surveys, we discovered that 80% of the people want community. We found out that 78% want accountability. So someone to keep them on track, help them stay focused. And also 78% were interested in mentorship. So we are offering this value in a platform. Our key resources for this community are a private social platform. That is something that they said they're very interested in. And we can leverage existing products like BuddyBoss. The training courses, those are going to teach people how to be accountable in their group. And then also add study tips and different things like that for people pursuing certifications. We're going to use Lifter LMS, which is a WordPress plugin like BuddyBoss. Our website is all going to be built around WordPress, and that's for scalability, being able to find developers that can integrate, people that can help maintain and work on the website. Another key resource for us is mentors. We are looking to start with a small amount of mentors, but then also through the platform, create mentors that serve the community. Our first activity and goal is to get people pursuing these certifications into small groups, make sure they have the tools and training that they need to make progress and actually complete and finish a certification that they're after. The second activity is to capture the resources, the tips, the tricks, the things that they use to actually move forward and do well in passing these certifications. Capture that information, roll it into a course that we can then offer to the next group that's going after it, and recruit the people that we like as mentors. Current channels and where we are finding these people are LinkedIn, Reddit, Facebook, and word of mouth. So we will be marketing through LinkedIn, Facebook, social media, and also providing freebies or just free information for people. It's showing, hey, here's how we see people learning well. Here's how people form groups, things like that. Offering free content to pull people into the communities. We're breaking down the price structure into a subscription model initially. So we have 3 different levels. Entry level, where you're just in the community for $10 a month. You can have access to the community and the courses that teach you how to have a good small group, how to have accountability, build all of these tools that make a small group successful. And then a pro/create, if you wanted to join and have access to a mentor on a regular basis, and then also maybe even create your own small training courses and sell those, you can do that as well. Our timeline is laid out into a 4-year timeline. Our MVP is going to be launched in year 1, and the central focus again is to make sure that the communities, the small groups are working well and people are able to actually make progress. Year 2, we want to grow our mentors. Our mentors would be our product ambassadors, and they're going to be the ones that feed back into the community and create more content to pull in more users. And as they finish, they can become mentors. So the community starts to feed itself. Year 3, we're going to expand into product-specific training. And then year 4, deploy certain or offer a go-to pro location where you can find a pro.
All right, that is time. Just in time for the thank you slide. All right, we will open up the floor to questions. If anyone on the Zoom has questions and anyone watching on Facebook Live, feel free to comment on that Facebook Live feed. We are monitoring those questions as well. right, it looks, oh, I saw a hand raised. There it is. Nathan Slaughter.
Hey, John Paul, good job. Love it. Was just curious around the accreditation. I'm unfamiliar with the process for getting the different certs. Is there an accreditation process that comes into play?
Yes. So Cisco is one manufacturer that has certifications for like an associate, entry level, professional level, and an expert level. So we are going after Cisco's associate level or the entry level initially. And the goal is to form small groups, teach them how to pursue this as a small group and keep each other accountable, and build a framework off of that for year one. And then once we can build a framework and a model off of how to make a small group successful and pursuing pretty much any certification, then we can roll that out to HP, Juniper, other manufacturers that have a very similar certification track.
And sorry, just may I have a follow-up question? Is there internal accreditation that happens from that path, self accreditation, or?
So there's you would get the goal is that these people are pursuing a certification within the organization. I don't have a certification structure, but I would like to form sort of these people have completed a certification in a group, and these are now like licensed, if you will, as a mentor. So that then there's an option for upselling. If you want one-on-one time with a mentor, here's all the people that have actually acquired a certification, and here's the people who said they would be willing to be a mentor.
Thanks.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions on the Zoom call? Give it a few more seconds. All right, David Walker.
Hey, John Paul. Good job, man.
Thank you.
I'll underhand one to you. How's that? Can you explain how you came up with your subscription pricing structure? Did you talk to competitors or potential customers, or how did you come up with those numbers?
I did a survey and I asked an open-ended question of how much would you be willing to pay for a private online community that offers accountability and mentorship. And the ranges were pretty large, but a good portion of it. And what the entry level people are saying is that they'd be willing to pay around $10 to $30 a month. The higher you make it up the certification track, those people were willing to pay up to $100, maybe even over $100 a month. But our initial focus is on those entry level people.
All right, thank you so much for your question, David.
Thank you.
Give it a few more seconds, see if anyone else, we have time for probably one more question. All right, and Lonnie?
Yeah, I'm sorry, John, this was a great presentation because it really clarified for me what your business is about, because last week I was a bit confused. So is your target area mostly California, or are you looking, I mean, Cisco, I know, is based in different places, but are you looking United States wide or?
Yes,
okay.
In the United States is where most of the people who are focusing on Cisco responded. I did have several other countries, and I noticed as I got into other countries that other manufacturers tended to be more predominant. And so initially we're going to focus on Cisco in the United States. But like I said, once we build that framework and we can kind of transfer that plan or what the training and the framework is to other manufacturers, then we'll expand globally to include, I don't know how to say it properly, but Hawaii. It's another massive manufacturer of networking gear, things like that.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much for your question, Lonnie. And that is all the time we have for questions. So we were going to move on to our next presenter. Next up, we have Torben with Builders Fund. And I believe Brendan's on the call with us again as well.
Hey everybody, just sharing my screen. Welcome back to Builders Fund. This week, we've spent some time into our avatars, and we've continued to hear via surveys from our founders that really, when it comes to funding, founders don't know where to start. They find that investors take control, but at the same time, they lack the knowledge they need to be able to get the funding in the first place. What we're going to do is build in the system an easy setup wizard for founders. And also, we've pivoted away from general crowdfunding to equity crowdfunding, which is a really specialized market that's going to dilute the investor base to reduce that control. And finally, we're going to have investors have the opportunity directly on the platform to do Q&A with founders. When it comes to investors, the problem continues to be high risk, communication from founders is poor, and expensive due diligence for investors. We're going to make it easy for founders to set up performance milestones, regular reporting, and all of that governance is going to be built directly into the system. So we came up with our value proposition after going through all the data and continue to develop our ideas. What we really want to do is put early stage founders in the driver's seat and give investors deeper insight and protection. But what does this all matter? What makes us unique? Well, we'll be the only platform that will be based on blockchain technology, which will automate all the governance, including the milestones, which will actually be independently auditable. And finally, all the equity will be created in the form of a security token, which is instantly tradable. And this is important because this is legislation that has only been released this year. Brendan?
Hi. We're going to launch ourselves and our fellow venture camp competitors in our MVP. What does that look like? Well, we're going to interview each finalist. We're going to create an online profile with your pitch and your milestones with an Invest Now section, which is going to allow you to raise funds directly into a digital smart contract. These will be internally audited against your milestones, and there's going to be no listing fees. This will be coming in Q1 2021. Our revenue model is very simple. We have a $250 listing fee and 5% of capital raised. We had a detailed look at our TAM, SAM, and SOM again. With our TAM, we have 1.4 million investable startups in the USA per year. When we focused in on California, we find we have 143,000 per year. For our SOM, we took a two-pronged approach, and we first looked at our operational throughput that we felt attainable for year one, and then we took 1% of SAM. And we found that both of those numbers correlated perfectly at about 1,500. So for our sales, we took our SOM multiplied by average deal plus fees, and we came to $14 million per year. Our average revenue per customer is a very healthy $9,250. For sustainability, we had a look at our next generations versus boomers. 188% of these are more likely to create a side business, with 50% of these more likely to have had ideas that they were passionate about to bring to the marketplace. Now, we had a feeling that these above stats would be highly accelerated by the new normals coming out of COVID-19. And we were very excited to see when we had a look at the first reportings on this in Q3 of 2020. You can see on the graph nearly 100% increase for that quarter three. We're also opening new markets with non-accredited investors, which is a really big deal, and the crypto markets. Crowdfunding on a whole is also coming off a very, very low base. Equity crowdfunding was only made possible due to regulations that came about in May 2016, and only 3% of total funding raising at the moment is going through crowdfunding. So there's a lot of upward potential there. So we see this is the perfect time to launch our unique equity crowdfunding platform.
Thanks, Brendan. Yeah, we'll take any questions now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. You guys know the drill by now. If you have a question, you can raise your hand or drop it in the Facebook chat. We have a question from Haley.
Hi guys. So I know like next to nothing about crypto markets. My cousins are into it, and so they try to give me like a crash course. But basically, my question is, would people be able to invest with multiple currencies? So like US dollar, but other countries if they were say from another country, but also you're going to have an option to invest with cryptocurrency as well. Is that what you were saying?
No, we are going to focus on normal US dollar investment. What we're doing is we're opening up to because we're using blockchain technology, it's very close to the crypto market. So if you look at crypto markets in 2017, there was a massive boom around what they call ICOs, which raised hundreds and hundreds of millions, in fact, billions. One ICO raised $4 billion in 2017. So we're bringing that. One of the problems with ICO markets is there was no way to get your money back. There's no protection. A lot of companies, dodgy actors, made promises and just walked off with this ICO money. So this is where the milestones come in fact, into play. And so we're essentially looking at a next round of ICOs, and we feel the crypto markets would be happy to come into Builders Fund because we have all of these built-in governance, and we're running on a blockchain, so it's a perfect fit for them.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for your question, Haley. Next, we have a question from Nathan.
Hey guys, Torben, Brendan, good to see you guys again. Was just curious from your perspective as you help entrepreneurs on this journey, will you help them with some of their filings that they'll have to do, like SEC 13F or some of these other things regulatory that will have to be taken if you're taking on equity, or have you considered that yet?
Yeah, maybe I'll have a first crack at the answer. This Torben can follow up, but we see the first milestone being generally setting up to make a company or a startup investable. So one of the key things is we're never going to pass funds to an individual or a startup. So the first milestone is going to be guided into that they have to make an investable entity as the first milestone. And that's the first milestone is when they can receive their first money. So it makes logical sense that the startup or the founders have to first create that investable vehicle. That includes any regulations or any legal or accounting things that they have to get in place.
Yeah, and just for context, this would be in a C corp or a LLC, and there's one of the things is as you get your articles of incorporation and some of those other things within that investment vehicle, if you're taking on outside capital, there's certain regulations like you'll just need to maybe consider it as being part of that process. And I think that could be a huge value add because you're already helping people cull through the other elements, the due diligence, et cetera. And if you have, that could even be another revenue stream, is helping to provide some of those ancillary services. Because if you're even raising over, $1 million, then this is a different fund that you have funding structure that has to happen.
Yeah,
which I'm sure you guys are aware of, but just context.
Yeah, we're looking at the regulations most likely starting in Reg D or CF crowdfunding, but then also helping people get through both D and A regulations. So yeah, we've been looking at that, and we're reaching out to consultancies to get more detail.
All right, thank you so much, Nathan. We have a question on the Facebook chat. What other growth opportunities are there?
Yeah, so Brendan can still jump in as well, but some of the things Nathan just mentioned, there's probably side consulting opportunities. We have opportunities, we've seen other people do white labeling. We see this as a way to do hyper-local funding as well, like for example, to restore an economy, like let's say in an area where you can deploy it, you can have governments plow in funding, local investors plow in funding, federal or state local funding. So there's many different avenues, including the amount of other secondary markets that are unlocked through this, both the normal share markets, but also accessing the way that founders might actually buy their own private equity as well within their own businesses so they can trade those out.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. That is all the time we have for questions. Torben, Todd shot you a question in the Zoom chat. So if you want to respond to that via chat, that would be great. And we are going to go ahead and move on to our last and final presenter, which is Teresa Perino with Eden.
Hello, everyone. Let me try to share my screen. Hello, everyone. I'm Teresa Perino from Eden. So this is Eden, the Creatives Greenhouse. So in Eden, we serve as a local hub that cultivate an artistic atmosphere that allows you to freely function in your creative gifts and build community through workshops, community events, and pop-up shops. So what's the problem? The problem is there's a lack of places where local artists can create and thrive in their gifts, whether it be drawing, writing, painting, etc. And also a lack of platform for local artists to showcase and sell their work. And there are also infrequent creative gatherings and community. So through my customer validation, through survey, I asked the open-ended question on what people want. And these are a few. I've had like over 100 responses, but I chose the ones that are more prominent in what they were saying. So they were saying the support of more local creatives. They want games for hanging out with small groups, atmosphere, an actual shop, a mini consignment shopping area, live music, little library, a place where I can share and talk with my friends. And from the customer avatar that I created, their hobbies and values were sketching and music, supporting and empowering other artists, socializing with friends, appreciating different mediums of art, and thrifting. And their pain points were inadequate places to showcase their work, insufficient space to create, and they want to connect with like-minded people. So with the customer validation, the customer avatar, I came up with a solution of creating a place that caters to the creative community to inspire, thrive, and grow. Basically like a creative hub that has pop-up shops, workshops, community events, and artists for platform. So my MVP, I think of starting with a smaller, more intimate venue. I'm thinking maybe about like 2,000 square feet and having pop-up shops from local vendors to sell products, having starting with a coffee cart and food cart, and just partnering with local nursery for plants, having live music, and just creating an urban atmosphere so that I can just see what my target market wants. So starting off smaller. So my revenue model are usually the traditional retail model. So from cafe drinks and food sales, I got some information online saying that United States coffee shop industry reached $47.5 billion in 2019, which is a 3.3% increase from 2018. And I looked up a couple cafes from here to see kind of where I can start from the revenue. So in Reading, from the Hearth, their annual revenue estimate was about $95,967, and Kaleidoscope Coffee was $100,000 to $499,999. Also getting revenue from leased pop-up shops from local vendors. I'm thinking about marking up the price by 25% per square feet to rent. And also through workshops, charging about $20 a person for adult, $15 for children for the workshops, marking from plant sales, doing a 25% markup, and artist commission, 20% commission. Because I looked up galleries charge 40 to 50% commission. So 20% is much less so that we can also support the local artists. And so room for growth. So long-term is to get like a larger real estate in order for people to also rent out studio space, having like photography, or if they want to do another class session, whatever it is, having more vendors, and actually having an actual cafe in the place instead of just a coffee bar, and also adding additional programs. And thank you. That's my presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Teresa. We will open up the floor for questions. For anyone in Zoom or anyone on Facebook, we are still monitoring that Facebook chat. Don't everyone raise your hand at one time. All right, there we go. Lonnie.
Yes, nice job, Teresa. Do you, when you were doing, your visioning and doing your value proposition, do you have a place in mind that you've come across that you kind of like see Eden becoming?
Yeah, so actually I'm originally from New Jersey and I moved here to Reading. And when we had our wedding at this place called the Art Factory, which is like a huge warehouse that the downstairs is a venue. I mean, a bunch of vendors from like local businesses. And the upstairs is a beautiful venue to have a wedding. And they have the second floor is like all studio spaces. And we just like loved it, and the way they decorated was just like so inspiring. And as like creatives, like just having so much idea just walking in there, and I want to build that for here because I know we have a lot of people who are creatives and who wants to start like small businesses. So this is like a platform for them to showcase what they have, whether it be handmade jewelry or I don't know, making whatever homemade items they have. They can sell it and showcase it to people.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Lonnie. Do we have any other questions on the Zoom call or in the Facebook chat?
Yeah, I was just curious from your perspective, what do you think is the most unique thing about your heart for this space that's going to kind of separate you from the other ones that may try to come in or create other coffee shops or these kind of similar spaces? Just curious from your perspective.
So here, I think this is more unique because yes, they'll have the area to lounge and have their coffee shop, but there'll be like vendors from other local artists. And it's just like a place where people can look around and see what artists have to offer. It's going to be like decorated with local artists. And also they'll have like availability to paint, to create. So we'll have like things that they can grab, like an easel to rent it out for the day. And just, I don't know if that answers your question or.
And I was just curious, like, will you have kind of programming around that, or will you have like a rev share if they sell stuff? Like, are there kind of other kind of nascent things that you've thought, sorry, my Zoom's on the other screen, other things that you've thought about from, from a stickiness perspective to keep people engaged, but also drive additional revenue for you?
Yeah, so like I was thinking of like the workshops, like having like I was saying before, like the paint and sip. So just having those programs, like a weekly program, maybe like one Saturday we'll do paint and sip. The next Saturday will be for kids. The next week we'll have like a different type of workshop for like different mediums of art. So it gives like everyone to be more involved and active in that way, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nathan. And we have a question from Todd in the chat. Do you feel like Common Downtown, aka Feast, or the Makery has some overlap with you? What makes you different?
What makes me different is because it's not just like a coffee shop or like a marketplace. It's like an area where people can just like hang out and talk. There'll be like games like let's say like the Jumbo Jenga and stuff like that, just like making it a little bit different, like a place like that.
So thank you so much. Let's see. Are there any more questions? We have time for maybe one more question.
Hey, I was just curious if you had thought about maybe taking this concept and putting it into an app to pull creators and different things, different people that are offering services like this together into kind of like a app that helps people find local coffee shops that would be willing to offer the same idea that you have.
Didn't think of that, but That's something I can look into, kind of figure out the logistics of that, and what that would look like. Thank you.
Cool.
All right. Thank you guys so much. So that is all the time we have for today. Congratulations to our finalists. You guys did awesome per usual. We have really enjoyed watching you along your journey, and we look forward to watching the next 2 weeks. So we have 2 more weeks of Venture Camp. Next week is the last pitch as it has been so far. And then the week after that is going to be our real finals. All of these people are finalists, but the actual finals are on November 6th, where our local Angels group will be judging and determining who will be the winner of that $2,500 cash prize. Now, from here, you're going to want to go get on the Startup Reading Facebook page. We have a poll that has been posted that is live that you can vote on your favorite pitch from today. The winner of that is going to get 25 points towards that final judging that the Angels will be doing. So it'll be 25 points that matter towards that $2,500. That is again on our Startup Reading Facebook page. I will drop the link in the chat. Todd will drop the link in the chat actually. And you can go and vote there. They'll also be winning a gift certificate to Theory. Our judges who are on the call today will be scoring everything, releasing the scores on Monday, and we will announce the actual winner as far as the best pitch as far as the judges are concerned on Monday, and that person will win a gift certificate as well to CR Gibbs, I believe. So go out and vote, and we will see you guys next Friday.